Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Adobe Live. My name is Flynn. Very happy to be here with you. I hope you caught the last stream with Jeremy Muro. We were tackling how to start a logo design from scratch. That was a real-life project, which is super cool, and he'll be back tomorrow. We're also here. I'm very excited to be joined once again by Sophie Elinor, animator and amazing type dork, one of our favorites here on Adobe Live. How are you doing, Sophie?
I'm good, Flynn. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm very good. Your plants in the background are looking very lush and green. They're
Yeah,
looking
they're
good.
going all right at the
Yeah.
moment.
What's that giant tall one that's going up? What have you got there?
Yeah, the one that's climbing here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a Hoya in my little disco ball planter.
Oh, wow. Oh,
It just really likes this sunroom.
yeah.
They're thriving in spite of me, really. I do not have a green thumb, so
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah.
You could have totally got away with it. You're like, yeah, every day I'm monitoring pH levels and yeah.
No, I'm always like, what do you need? Do you need more water? Do you need more sun? I don't know.
Too much water, not enough
But yeah,
water.
this one's going all right. I'm pretty stoked with this one.
Very cool. Well, yeah, it looks like you're a pro, total pro.
Thank you so much.
And a quick little shout out to Alessandra as well. I missed saying hi in the previous stream before, but I did say hi in chat. But it's good to see you again as well. Yes, we are back doing this kind of time slot. I think we'll be doing this for a while. We're focusing on some how-to pieces of content and stuff. So we've asked people such as Sophie and Jeremy previously. We've got a lot of people coming on that are very specifically talking about here's how we do this thing. And we just kind of chat about it. We'll look at a process. I think, as always, there's always a couple different ways to do things right. I don't think there's ever one way to do things. So this is part of the fun. We get to kind of dissect how to do things. And Alessandra has asked, Sophie, did you cut your hair? It looks nice.
Oh, thank you. I cut it a little while ago. It's kind of hard to see with these big chunky headphones on, but thank you. That's
Right.
lovely.
I thought it was part of the plant. Could have gone straight through. Very good. Okay, well, let's get started. So we've got two streams. We've got a stream again tomorrow as well. So hope if you guys are live, throwing questions if you would like in chat as we're going along. But yeah, should we get to know Sophie again? I think we should.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Sophie, who are you and what do you do?
Oh, such an existential question
Right.
to begin with. As you said, I am a type doc. I work a lot in typography and animation and usually pretty vibrant, saturated color palettes. That's very much my jam.
Mm-hmm.
Usually kind of err on the side of silly. That's the sort of place I like to play in. But yeah, that's kind of what we'll be doing today is some silly lettering animated.
Silly lettering animated. Why is that hard to say?
Yeah.
I love that. That's cool.
Yeah, it's because I said it backwards because that's not how that sentence was meant to come out.
You tripped me up. Well done. 1 point to you, sir. That's really cool. And I love, can you show the Adobe Live animation that you did, which was really cool. I love it so much.
So this is, I guess, a good example of kind of what we'll be playing with today. And tomorrow, actually. So we're going to sort of divide it into Photoshop and After Effects.
Mm-hmm.
They're sort of the two programs that I use for animation. Kind of bounce around between the two depending on what I'm working on. So After Effects being great for kind of longer form animations and things that require sort of crisp, clean vectors, things that need to be quite smooth. That's what After Effects is really great for. And then Photoshop is great for more hand-drawn stuff, which we'll be doing tomorrow. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one animation and we're going to kind of tackle it two different ways and I guess do a little bit of a compare and contrast and I guess just give you sort of two doorways to kind of enter the animation realm into. After Effects can seem, I guess, a little bit daunting if you've never used it before. Photoshop's probably a little more in a lot of people's wheelhouse if they're already working in that program.
Yeah.
So yeah, this animation is like a little bit sneaky. Adobe, the top line is done in After Effects and the bottom line is done in Photoshop.
Yeah.
And I've kind of tried to push them into sort of a middle ground, I guess. So I've tried to make the one that was done in After Effects seem a little bit more hand-drawn and a little bit more textured.
Right.
And I've tried to make the Photoshop one a little smoother just to kind of show you that you can achieve a similar effect in both, but they're very different ways to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to tell. Like, I don't think you could really tell unless someone told you.
Yeah,
Which is which.
yeah. Well, that's a huge compliment. So thank you.
Right.
It's exactly what I was going for.
Yeah.
Today, though, we are going to be playing around with some spicy lettering.
Nice.
And I just thought I would start by showing you the Illustrator file setup, because there's always a little bit of file setup that kind of makes our lives a little bit easier once we get into After Effects. And mostly that's just splitting everything up into different layers. What I'm aiming for with this one is to just kind of get these flames doing a little bit of a dance. I don't really want the letters themselves to move around too much. I really want the sort of focus of this to be that kind of flaming top row in the design here.
Yeah.
And so I probably didn't need to split all the letters into individual layers here, but I've done it anyway, just in case I decide later on if I want to animate those individually. But every single little piece of flame is kind of on its own layer here.
Right.
So it looks like a lot, but it's it's a fairly simple design.
And you're just creating a new layer each time you do a different,
So I
drawing.
I do it all in one to begin with. I just do it all on the same layer, and then I sort of split it off into different layers, kind of in the back of my mind, keeping in mind what I'm going to be animating.
Right.
So anything that kind of needs to be treated on its own needs to be in its own layer. And then we've got all these little sparks here, also on their own layers. And I've hidden these, but I'll bring that up here. These are my plan, aside from the sort of dancing flames, is to have these little sparks that kind of, or these embers that sort of jump out of the flames, to add a little bit of extra sort of, a bit of this on top, a little sprinkling of this.
Yeah.
A bit of spice, exactly. And so I've just kind of drawn the path that I want them to follow. Could have done that in After Effects very easily, but since I'm here in Illustrator anyway, I'll just make all my layers and then we're ready to animate.
Cool. Love it.
So we'll jump over into After Effects and import our file. Ooh. It's going to be the thing where, where did that go? There we go. We got there in the end. So this is our file here. We just want to change the import as to composition and create composition. That's going to make sure all of our layers come in separately rather than as just one single Illustrator file. And we'll just give that a sec. And when we open that up, we should have all of our different bits and pieces there. They have come in as Illustrator files. So if I just select them all and go create, that's interesting. Create shapes from vector layer. We'll give that a sec. I don't know why I keep getting this. Release cap locks to refresh view. I do not have caps lock on, but anyway, let's just persevere and see how we go with this one.
I'm just letting chat know as well. I've just hidden our cameras for a second just while we're looking at the timeline down the bottom specifically. It doesn't affect you, Sophie, but just so everyone knows, I'm just hiding the camera for a second until I can move them properly.
Great.
Otherwise, I won't be able to see what you're doing.
I'm going to just hide all of our little sparks and trails to begin with. That's really, why is that happening? Let me just save this file and we'll see if, we'll just persevere because I'm not really sure why that's happening, but we might just have a little sort of, Are you getting that blinking on and off there as I'm going?
On the timeline? Do you want to do that again?
Yeah, is it disappearing when I move along?
Yeah. Yeah, it's going black and then coming back again.
Yeah, strange. Okay.
Cheeky.
Yeah, very cheeky. I'm just going to check my composition settings here. I want the frame rate for this one to be 24. And we probably don't need 15 seconds. That's a pretty long animation. We're just going to make it 5 for the sake of what we're working on. Oh, hang on. We want 5 seconds, not 5 frames. Beautiful.
There was a question. I know that we're sorting out some tech stuff, but just while we're on this part, Angela asked, is it important that the layers are numbered? I think when you're bringing them in from Illustrator to After Effects.
It's really more for my own reference, I suppose, just so that I don't get lost. I find that just helps me kind of keep track of where I'm up to.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely don't need to. It's just how your brain works, I guess. If you don't need the numbers there to assign them, I mean, like you zoom out and you can see like when you highlight, it'll show you where the layer is kind of thing as you go along. So it's not necessary, but I just like to keep it tidy as I'm going.
And I would imagine as well, like it's probably a good practice to get into because when you're early on trying to do this stuff, like thinking about it, like you might do all the top at once or you might do all of the S stuff. And just knowing when you're building it is probably going to save you a lot of time and confusion down the track trying to hunt down exactly the right layer.
Yeah, definitely. So as you were saying before, there's a lot of different ways you can come at creating a specific effect. So this sort of flame thing we're going for, there's a bunch of different ways we could do that in After Effects. One would be to use this little puppet pin tool up here. So this little guy here, which we've done in previous streams before. And we can just stick little pins in. Oh, God, that's going to be so distracting if it does that every time.
Is it because it's going black or the keyframes are like it's not animating between? Is that what's happening?
No, nothing's actually happening there. Do you know what? Maybe let me save this. Actually, yeah, maybe I'll try reopen the file because that's going to be really distracting if we do this.
Yeah, sure. Do it.
We'll just talk amongst yourselves while that is happening.
I think this sort of thing is really good that like even when you're doing a tutorial on how to do something, like things can go wrong, like these little things. And I think it's important because you can kind of follow the steps. I do this all the time. I don't know about anyone else watching, but like I'll watch some YouTube video of someone showing you just do this and then you do this. I did this with OBS recently, which I'm much more new to. And then I was opening OBS and someone's like, yeah, just turn on monitoring in your headphones and it works. I'm like, but it doesn't work. That's what I'm trying to find. And then everything's backwards and it does work, and my version doesn't look the same as everyone else's version. And I'm like, why is mine not working? And you don't know if it's is it your operating system? Is it your capture card? Is it your GPU? Is it your CPU? Is it, your internet connection, like some other weird ghost in the machine thing? So you never know. So it's doing it again, isn't it? The little black thing.
It's doing it again, yeah. I did get a little error message saying my disk cache is like dangerously.
Or it could be your disk cache.
It could be my disk cache. I'm so sorry about that, Flynn. I think we'll be able to persevere though because it does come good eventually. It just needs a little second every time I scrub through.
Would it be a lot less if you just did one letter, perhaps?
Yeah. We can just focus on one letter. Yeah. That might be the way to go.
Yeah.
So where were we before? We were looking at the puppet pin tool, which, have we still got that there? Yeah, so we stuck some little, let me zoom right in so we can actually see what we're looking at here. We stuck some little nodes in that little flame there.
Mm-hmm.
And where have they gone? It's hard to see because the little yellow dots on a yellow background, but we can kind of move. Oops.
Oh, that's okay. Every now and then it turns black so you can see it really easily. It's great.
It's perfect. It's helping us out.
It's a feature.
Love that. You can kind of, oh my gosh, this is a nightmare. Okay, let's bring this right in so we're not looking at 5 seconds long too. You can kind of see it's doing a little bit of a jiggle there. And if I repeat those start keyframes, we can kind of get a little bit of this motion happening.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a little bit janky. It's not great. And also it involves me manually sticking those pins in every single flame. And we've got like 20 different pieces of flame. So it's not ideal. That is one way you can do it. I'm going to delete that off there. And I'm going to show you the way that I like to do this, because it's like a pretty basic effect really, but it's quite effective. And that's to use the wave warp tool, or the wave warp effect rather. And if I just drag and drop that onto my layer here, and we sort of set that to play, you can kind of see already that it's doing a bit of it's getting a bit of a groove on kind of thing. You know, it's got a little bit of a bounce. It is kind of going in the wrong direction though. We don't want it to go up and down. We sort of want more of this side to side action.
Yeah.
So to do that, I think by default it's set to 90 degrees. We just want to change that to 0. And already we've kind of got this nice...
Oh, wow. It's way more like a flame, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And we haven't done any keyframing at all. We've just kind of dragged this effect onto the layer and it's kind of doing its own thing. There's a lot of parameters here that we can play with to make this more interesting, I guess, or to sort of tinker with the speed and the height of things. So we've got the wave height and the wave width are the two kind of main things. And you can sort of tinker with these, like just bump this right up and see what the difference that it makes is. Like when you change the height really high, it's doing some pretty gnarly stuff there. We definitely don't want that. So 100 is too much. Let's take it back down to 10. And then the wave width, if I just bump this right up so you can see what it's doing, it's kind of, instead of just being here, it's a more exaggerated side to side, which is, again, probably a bit more than we would like. We want it to sort of stay mostly on top of the shape of the S that we've got there.
Yeah.
And the other thing we can change is the speed. So at the moment, it's going pretty fast, just set to 1. But we can, I don't know, maybe halve that and see what that looks like. The thing that requires a bit of tinkering here is getting that to loop. That's kind of what we're going to aim for. We want this final animation to loop properly. So it's just the wave speed and the length of your animation really need to talk to each other if you want them to kind of complete a full cycle within that space. So I've just dragged this out to 2 seconds, and now that speed kind of works fine.
It's cool. It's like cozy fire.
Yeah, it's got a nice sort of gentle vibe to it, this one. The next thing, and this is where After Effects is quite powerful and quite fast, I guess, is because we've just applied that effect to one layer, we can basically copy that effect, and we can, I thought I deleted that puppet layer. Let me get rid of that. We can copy that wave warp effect and apply it to all of our other flame layers. And quite quickly we can have like a whole composition that all of a sudden is on fire in a good way.
This is fun.
So I'm just gonna Command C and Command V onto my second flame layer here. So really did not do much, but already kind of have this quite sort of engaging animation here.
Yeah. And this is like a really powerful thing about After Effects, right? Like which you kind of touched on there, where it's like you can kind of get something right where you want it, and then you can kind of just apply it to all these other layers, like kind of in a couple of clicks.
Yeah, and you can tinker with the timing and those effect parameters to change things up and not feel quite so uniform as well. At the moment, these two flames are dancing at the same speed, but we kind of want them out of rhythm a bit, because if you watch an actual flame, it's sort of, there's no sort of rhythm to it. It's all kind of, out of sync and out of time. So on that second flame, maybe we will bump that one back up to 1 and just see what that looks like. So we've got one that's going a lot faster. And now it just feels more realistic, I guess.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is a very stylized drawing, but just kind of having those offset animations makes a big difference to how the overall thing feels.
Yeah.
And so now we can kind of do that. If we're just looking at the letter S, let me zoom out a little. Oh, After Effects is really having a day with me today.
You're right. We should have done Photoshop first. You're right. I'm sorry. I blame me.
No, it's my own fault for having a disk cache that's clearly choked. I hope that's the issue and it's not some other thing that I don't know. I've literally never seen it do this before. So classic that it happens on a live stream. That's just
absolutely classic.
That's just perfect. That's a little bit slow. So what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of playing around with these numbers to see what I can get to loop within this 2-second time frame. Maybe we just go back to 0.5. And the other thing I can play with here is like maybe the width of this one wants to be 50 instead of 40. Like maybe it's doing a slightly wider dance and maybe the height comes down a little. So just even though like all of the flame illustrations are slightly different. So like even if I applied this, if I applied the same effect to all of them, they would naturally just be a bit different because the starting illustration is different. I do still like to go and just tinker with each little effect to make sure that they're each doing something slightly different.
Yeah.
Maybe we will take the effect of this first flame and pop it on flame 4, and let's see what that looks like. And it might require like a bit of moving things around too. Like maybe that's kind of going a little bit wide. Maybe we want to bring that in a bit, do we? It's quite mesmerizing.
It is. It's like a lava lamp.
Kind of stare. Yeah. Classic Simpsons reference there. Yeah, maybe we want to move this guy up a little bit and maybe we want to move these in. Would be so helpful if I could see what I was doing, but persevere. So it's kind of going out a little bit wide at that point. That's a little bit better. Maybe we bring it down. Yeah, that feels a bit more comfortable.
Yeah. And do you think about like the top is fast and then the middle is slow and then the bottom is super slow, or is it a bit more experimental? Like you don't want to be thinking about it kind of in that kind of, I don't know, linear or mathematical approach?
I'm not sort of doing a gradation of speed, I don't think. Yeah. I'm just trying to have like, if anything, I'm trying to make it feel quite random.
Yeah.
Rather than there be like a sort of mathematical thing to it. I'm just trying to make it feel organic. I guess that's kind of going back to that thing of how can we make this thing that's done in a program built to make things feel smooth, feel handmade.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. That's sort of the dance that we're doing with this one. At the moment, we're not there because this is all very smooth. But we will get there. So it's kind of already like without, again, we haven't put any keyframes in here and we've already got this like S that's completely on fire.
Yeah.
I don't know if we should try and do the other flames. Part of me is like, don't tempt fate.
I think
you're
don't
already
tempt fate.
Thin ice.
Yeah, I think just focus on the S because
cool.
Yeah, just do that. I think.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to tempt the fates of like, hey, I warned you, my cache was full. Now I crash. Now I'm sleepy.
It does. These effects can take a little bit of render time as well.
Yeah.
So sort of the longer the animation is, the more of these effects that you layer on, the more hungry the sort of render is going to be.
Yeah. You're also streaming,
so
and also
yeah.
just to point out for people like at home, like it's probably happening because you are streaming, not just because of serendipity, but
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
your hard drive and your computer are trying to stream and put all this video content out at the same time while you're trying to render things live. So it's kind of
Yeah.
doubling your system requirements, I would say,
Yeah.
thereabouts.
And my poor old machine is probably getting a little long in the tooth also.
It's like, I'm on fire here. Come on.
Okay, so these, if we go back to our little reference illustration, we've got two little sparks on the letter S, so that's good. We can have a look at those. So, and I'll just bring up our little trails as well that I had drawn here. Now, what I want to do here is take I want our little spark to kind of pop out of the top of the flame and then just kind of meander and then disappear into the distance, I guess.
Right.
The same way it would if you were watching a fire kind of thing. So if we look at our first little spark here at the bottom of the letter S, because I've already drawn this path here, what I'm going to do is basically copy the path of this guy here. So just Commit and C, I'm copying that path. And I'm going to go to my spark layer. And in my little drop down in the transform thing here, go to the position property and paste. And that is going to paste the, oh my gosh, if we could actually see it. It's dropped it in the wrong position, which it will often do just because I haven't told it where I want it to be.
Right.
But I can highlight all of this and bring it over to where our little, like kind of drop it back onto where I marked that out before.
Drop it where it's hot.
Drop it where it's hot. Exactly. Thank you. And I'm going to hide that trail line. So now we're just sort of seeing this little ember come through here. Again, this is looking a little bit stiff because we haven't really added any other effects than changing the position of it. The first thing I'm going to do is you can kind of see here that it's not a perfect circle. It's more of an oblong. And it's moving like this, like it's staying completely upright.
Yeah.
What I want it to do is sort of follow the line like this. And so that's just right-clicking, going transform and auto orient. And I'm going to tell it to orient along the path. And you can see it's kind of changed the direction there. It's not exactly where I want it. I want it to kind of be lying on that line. You just rotate it. And now we've got this.
Right.
And that feels much less stiff, much more like it's kind of doing a bit of a dance.
That's cool. That was a really quick change. That's great.
Yeah, super quick to do and does make a big difference. If it was a perfect circle, you wouldn't notice it, obviously, because rotating that's not going to change the appearance of it. But with this more elongated shape, it does. The other thing we're going to do, it's staying the same size the whole way along, and then it's just kind of disappearing into nothing. We want it to start as nothing, grow, and then disappear again.
Right.
And that's just with animating the scale property, which is just underneath the position one that we did. So first of all, we want it to be 0, and we're going to drop a keyframe there, jump forward a few, and bring it back to 100. So let's just have a look at what that looks like. So that could probably slow down a little, actually. And then maybe when it gets to about here, I'm going to copy that 100 keyframe to here. And then by the time it gets to the end, we want it to be 0 again.
Yeah, cool.
So it's feeling much more organic. And we'll just pop a little bit of ease on that just to kind of make it feel a little bit more fluid. And now we've got this kind of nice it's just adding a little bit of extra detail to the overall animation and kind of selling that flame motion a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
So we'll just repeat that process for this little guy over here. So that was, we start with our trail layer and twirl down into the path property, copy that, and then go to our spark layer and paste it in the position tab. And it's doing the same thing again. It's going to put it in a really weird spot. Well, we'll just drag everything back up to where we actually wanted it.
Usually probably a bit easier if you can see everything, but yeah.
Yeah, totally. Definitely a lot easier to do it that way. We're pretty close. Maybe we'll just nudge it up here. Oops.
And it's based on that path, isn't it? It's just deciding that it's going to put it in the middle of the screen once it's done its thing.
Yeah, I don't really know why it does that. It's
right.
Not, as far as I know, there's not like a paste in place version of this.
I was going to say
we're kind of copying from one property into a different property. We're saying like make this path this layer's position.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's like a direct one-for-one.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like sometimes it's the way that the app was built 10 years ago, that it's like it just has to put the animation at the 0Y, 0X, and then it figures everything else around it or something.
Yeah, totally. Or it's also very possible that it does exist and I'm just not aware of it.
Haven't discovered it yet. Yeah. Paste in place is like my favorite in Illustrator and Photoshop. Every day.
It's honestly magic.
Yeah.
I feel so clever every time I use it. I'm like,
when it works.
I know paste in place.
Right.
Okay, let's zoom in here and have a little look at our spark. Again, we've got another sort of oblong shape, so I'm just going to do that auto orient little trick again. Along path. And we'll just rotate it so it is in the right position, and we should hopefully be pretty good.
Oh, cool. It's like a little fast one.
Yeah. And then again, just sort of After Effects being nice for that sort of copy and paste thing. I can copy and paste my scale keyframes from the one we just did onto this layer here. I might not want them in exactly the same position. Like I might want to tinker with them a little bit, but it's at least giving me that starting point. Cute.
Nice. Looks great.
All right. So we've got our flames dancing with the wave warp tool. We've got our little sparks kind of zooming in and out. It's looking good, but overall, like if we ignore the parts of the word we haven't animated, the S is still feeling quite static. If this were a hand-drawn animation, there would be some looseness in it. There would be like a bit of wobble, a bit of roughness in the outlines. It wouldn't be quite so crisp and perfect. And so to sort of emulate that, we're going to add an adjustment layer, which is going to apply whatever effect I put on it to everything that sits underneath it in our timeline. And the effect that I want to apply here is turbulent displace. So again, it's just a drag and drop onto that layer. Yep. Initially, it's going to do some weird stuff. We definitely don't want whatever is happening here. We want to bring those... bring the sort of scale of what's happening down quite a bit. At the moment, it's set to like 50, which is way too big, and also the size is set to 100, which again is far too big. We want to bring that right down, probably in the realm of like. So we're sort of getting somewhere there. I think the amount is still probably too high though. Like maybe we want something in the teens, perhaps. And we can change the complexity of that as well if we want a little bit more detail. So you can kind of see it's a pretty subtle difference, but if I zoom right in on this black space where nothing is appearing, if we zoom right in, you can see that it's added just like a little bit of roughness to the edge. If I switch that off, it kind of goes from perfectly, you know, geometric to something that's got a bit more texture in it.
Yeah.
Which to me just feels a little bit more human, a little bit more like relatable, like I want to see it.
Yeah.
However, at the moment it's static, but we can animate that property as well.
I was going to ask actually, is that animating? Because if it was very subtle.
Yeah, not yet, but it will be.
Cool.
In this little evolution options here, we've got this drop down here. And if I control click on that, I always feel like I'm hacking the mainframe when I do this one little code trick that I know.
Hack the planet. Let's do it.
I've just put a little script in that basically says time *12. It's the most basic script you can possibly do, but it's one that I use a lot. And it's basically telling this layer and this effect every 12 frames, pick a different set of properties.
Right.
So
redoes the filter or something.
Not every 12 frames, 12 frames per second, sorry.
Right.
In this case, because we've got 24 frames per second, that's every 2 frames.
Right.
So 12 times per second, it's picking a different roughness, I guess. So now we get this really sort of jittery, much more hand-drawn feeling effect, which just feels like I think you can kind of overdo it if you go a little bit hard on this, because it is still an artificial effect. It isn't done by hand, so it's not going to look the same way that a hand-drawn animation will. But it's, you know, it's a much more lively animation than if we turn it off.
Totally, yeah.
And I guess also like in the theme of this particular animation, it's almost like that sort of heat glimmer you get when something's...
It's almost like a layer in front of it that we're actually a little bit too close to it, and it's kind of the heat, like a mirage in the distance. It's kind of, I was getting that.
So I think for this specifically, that's quite a nice effect to play with. And again, like depending on the size of your design, you know, you might want to tinker with the amount and the size and the complexity up here. Like maybe you just want something much more subtle, or maybe you want something that's really bouncing around quite a lot. That's just, something that you can play around with a lot. But this is something I use quite a lot in my After Effects animations, just to give it that feel of imperfection. I don't ever want anything to feel too perfect, because I just sort of disengage when something feels too clean and too perfect. Yeah. If there's a little bit of grit in it, I'm much more intrigued, I guess, by it.
And you said at the start, like your North Star is silliness. So, you know, it's the other end of the spectrum, right? It has to jiggle a little bit. Can't be too perfect.
Exactly.
I've got an After Effects
lettering piece.
Like, sorry, go on.
My North Star is silliness.
Yeah.
I might letter that.
You're welcome.
Day.
Take it, run with it. I've got a technical After Effects question. So if you don't know the answer, it's totally fine. But you're talking about how every half second it does something slightly different, kind of reinterprets the parameters, right? Does that mean if you keep doing it, like are we watching it? I know it's very subtle here, so it's hard to tell. But does that mean that it's potentially slightly different each time? Like if you render it and then rendered it again, and it was much more obvious than this, would it be actually different? Like, is it picking random variables, or is it identical?
That's a great question. I've never actually tested that. I imagine it probably would be different though, because it's a randomizer,
right?
Sort of
like if it's 1 to 50 and it's like it's 47 now and then it's 2 here, and that's what gives it that. Anyway.
Yeah.
There we go.
I'll have to test
open
that.
Question. Yeah.
I'm very intrigued to see. Actually, it's interesting just looking at this, even without the sort of wave effect, because we've got that slight jiggle in there. That alone is sort of making those flames look a little bit like they're flickering. Mm-hmm. It'd be better if the whole thing was animated, and I will animate the rest when I'm not simultaneously streaming. Yeah. But I think like you kind of get the gist with here.
Yes.
There's one final little sort of ingredient I want to sprinkle on top here, just to kind of push it even further in that hand-drawn direction.
Loving the spice and fire metaphors, by the way. They've been great.
Yeah.
They've been subtle. I do appreciate and have noticed. Pepper in here, a little bit of spice. It's been great.
Yeah. We'll sprinkle some sugar on if we need.
Yeah.
What else can we add in? This is a very sort of flat color. If I was doing this in Photoshop, which I will be tomorrow, I would probably be using a brush that has a bit of like a pencil effect, or, you know, some sort of texture to it.
Right.
We can bring a little bit of that into After Effects. So what I want to show you is a little thing I prepared earlier of some texture. Let's just leave it like that. Okay, this is literally just a piece of scribble that I did in Photoshop using the pencil tool as a brush.
Right.
Sorry, a brush with a pencil effect. And if we zoom right in, it looks like rubbish, but it is that very hand-drawn feel. I'm going to copy this into my other layer here. And so at the moment, it's just sitting on top. What I want to do is, I want the adjustment layer outside. I think that I do. What I'm going to do is group all of my layers except for the background and just put them in a pre-comp. And let's just call it spicy. And I'm going to set this to basically mask everything that I've put in that layer, like our spicy layer with all the vector illustration we've done. I've grouped that in one, and then I've set that whole group to mask out of the Photoshop texture layer that I've brought in.
Right.
And so now if we zoom right in, you're kind of getting much more of that. It's quite subtle, but it does make a difference having that.
It's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what we can do from there, one last little sort of bit of, I don't know, quick Flynn, what's another spice? Turmeric. No, that's not right.
That's not right. Chili? Can we go with chili?
Yeah. We'll add some chili in.
Oh my
sure,
God.
Why not?
Stumped.
I'm going to manually keyframe the position of this sort of background layer. Again, gosh, it would be helpful if we could see this. And just kind of really randomly dragging it into different positions every 2 frames. So this will be like a 12 frames per second kind of deal. Let's have a little look there and see what that's doing. Okay, you can kind of get a little sense of what's happening here. It's moving that sort of Photoshop texture behind the mask of our lettering. So we're getting a little different snippet every time, which is making it feel more like it was hand-drawn, right? Because if I was drawing this by hand, and if I was coloring in every single frame, it wouldn't be exactly the same every time. It would be slightly different. And so this is just like quite a manual way, I guess, to, and we can duplicate these frames. We don't need to do the whole thing, just so we can kind of get the effect.
Yeah.
Now we've got our kind of rough edges. We've got our texture happening. We've got the flames and the sort of embers going. If this is looking too like transparent, you could also duplicate that layer. And then that would sort of like thicken the yellow coverage, I guess, and you would have fewer of those dots. But I kind of like the impression that that's giving. It's feeling really if we zoom out a little bit there, there's much more of that flickering happening and it feels much more textured.
Yeah.
If we want to really push it in that sort of hand-drawn frame by frame direction, the last little thing we can do on our adjustment layer is add a posterized time effect, which is going to, because our current frame rate is 24, if we just change that to 12, that's going to now make everything feel much more jittery and much more handmade.
Right. Is that just lowering the amount of keyframes per second? Like how many keyframes per second?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. Well, it's lowering the amount that it's showing you.
Right.
So the animation is still running at 24 frames per second, but it's only showing us every second frame, which is giving us a bigger jump between each of those movements. If we zoom right in and have a look at these frames, if I turn that off, we've got a very fluid, smooth motion, which is true to what a fire would look like. It's perfectly fine to leave it here as is, but I think because I am just kind of striving for that handmade, rough, imperfect sort of feel, switching that on and having that kind of clamp down to be 12 frames per second, it just feels more of the hand, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh,
and so now we've got a fairly hand-drawn feeling animation that was largely, the keyframes that we added were really only on this background texture and on our little embers. The flames themselves are kind of dancing with the wave warp effect. That texture is, that roughened texture from the turbulent displace is really kind of just running in the background. We didn't have to manually plot any keyframes in there, but all of those things sort of layered together does make something that feels really sort of organic in a space that is not really built for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Oh, it's so cool. I love it. It's amazing because I think it's one of those things where I feel like once we get past the first or second step, I feel like it's kind of done. I'm like, it looks great. It's really cool. So it's one of those things where it's a little bit like illustration. Like, I often do that with illustration. Like kind of someone will do the sketches on Adobe Live and I'm like, great, print it, looks good. I really love these blue lines. But then just the more and more layers and the more that you can do with it to just kind of continue to really polish it. And it's probably like that 10% more, and then it's 5% more, and then it's like 3% more. But it really does add a lot. Add a lot to the final composition when you kind of sit back and look at it.
I think so. I think, and in this regard, we're kind of doing the opposite. We're not polishing it. We're kind of scuffing it up a bit.
Right. Yeah.
This is starting off too shiny. We want to sand it a bit and put a ding in it there, and I don't know, kick it down the road a little bit and make it feel like it's lived a little,
Yeah, lived a little. Yep. Some bruises.
But yeah, you're right. It's that layering, and you could stop at any of those points along the way. But yeah, taking it to this level feels like a good place to me.
Yeah. Well, speaking of a good place, we've got a minute left before we need to wrap. So thank you so much. We will be back with Sophie tomorrow, same time, and I believe going to pick up the same draft, the spicy, and we're going to see how it's different. So it'll be really cool tomorrow because we can kind of compare the two, like animating in After Effects, animating in Photoshop, pros and cons, all that sort of stuff, and then the sort of different type of effects that you can get and how you go about it, which I'm very excited for.
Oh, wait.
It's going to be really cool. Well, thank you so much, Sophie, for joining us and also persevering through the technical stuff that was happening then. It's always show of a legend that you did so well during that. So thank you very much. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for watching as well. And so we don't run out of time, we'll say goodbye now. And we'll see you all tomorrow on Adobe Live.